Welcome to Labor Talks, a podcast by NJASAP and for NJASAP that shares important news and information that you consume on your schedule. Labor Talks will tackle vital topics like safety, contract administration, the labor management relationship, and how to navigate life as a NetJets pilot. And we will bring this information to you with the help of experienced union leaders, industry consultants, and subject matter experts. Whether you listen in your car, on the treadmill, or while working on tasks around your home, Labor Talks is a worthy investment of your time and attention. Join your fellow pilots and advocates as Labor Talks. Welcome to Labor Talks. I'm your host, Carey, and with me today is Scheduling Committee Chair Bennett Taylor. Join us for part one of our three-part refresher on standby and overtime pay, hot spare duty, and reserve and non-flight assignment duties. All three episodes are part of the multi-part series, Did You Know? Today's topic, standby and overtime pay. More specifically, the relationship of how overtime pay works with standby pay. Bennett, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today.
How's it going in your new committee chair role?
It's going well. There's definitely a lot of the membership has been reaching out recently with definitely daily scheduling gripes, and I enjoy getting to work with them on that.
That's great. Well, we're happy to have you on board. All right, so let's start off by explaining what standby duty is.
Yeah, so standby duty essentially is any time that you're not either going to go perform a flight per se that day, you're not at duty at home or at the hotel or travel duty. So this is kind of the other type of duty that exists that you may not encounter in your daily briefs.
So it's not something that I would see on my waypoint. There wouldn't be a line that says standby duty necessarily.
Correct. So standby time will not be listed in waypoint, but what you might see listed in waypoint is standby flight. And I know we'll be getting to that later on.
All right. So when does overtime pay kick in when I am on standby duty?
So overtime pay is going to begin once you've accumulated 3 hours of standby duty within a single duty period. So what that would look like, and what I tell most folks, is for you to be accruing standby time, you either have to have not a good crew or not a good airplane. If you do have a good crew and a good airplane, then that is not considered standby. But if you're waiting for an inbound aircraft to come in, or if you're waiting for another crew member to show up, that's when you might be accruing standby time.
So essentially what you're saying is standby duty is when I have three important things: a crew member, of an airplane, and an assignment?
More or less. I like to think of it, maybe not the assignment per se, but if you have a good plane and a good crew, that is not considered standby duty. As soon as one of those two pieces of the puzzle falls out of place, then that is considered standby. The other type of standby duty that can exist is when you're waiting for travel.
All right, so let's set up a scenario. It's day 7. I have just landed with my crew member and an aircraft into Peachtree. And I am assigned, or I should be going home that evening, but I have not received that travel assignment yet. While I wait for that travel assignment, does that count as standby duty?
That would not count as standby duty unless the other crew member or the airplane departed. Typically, what you're going to see is most likely an on-duty at FBO leading up until your travel time. But if your partner immediately is on their way, let's pretend that their base was Peachtree and now you're left alone and it's 6 hours until your flight, you would get essentially 4 hours of standby duty here. The company can have you arrive at the airport up to 2 hours before your flight might happen. So when we're doing the calculation here, essentially we're going to have standby overtime would not start getting paid until you begin the 3rd hour. You get 1 full hour of overtime, and then essentially that would turn into your travel duty from hours 5 and 6.
What type of standby duty scenarios do you see the most?
I would say mostly it's either not having your crew member with you or you have an inbound aircraft. So let's say the inbound aircraft that you're waiting for has an edict coming out of New York and you're sitting in Miami waiting for them. And after you and your partner arrive at the FBO, it's been 6 hours and now that aircraft shows up. In this scenario, you would have about 6 to 6.5 hours of standby time, and that would be paid at 3 to 3.5 hours worth of overtime.
And are there any examples of standby duty that we have not yet touched on?
The only other one would be excessive time spent at the airport. So if you and your partner, or even if you're by yourself, arrive at the airport, let's say 5 hours before you're supposed to take off or depart to head home or to head to another aircraft or to head out on the road, then that would also count as standby time. For all standby time, again, you're going to have to accumulate 3 hours of it before that overtime pay kicks in.
All right. So you've discussed standby time triggering when either maybe your crew member has called in sick or your airplane goes down. You lose basically one of those variables. So what happens when your airplane is AOG?
Yeah, so once you've sent that AOG into the company, that's going to begin a 1 hour clock that does not count as standby duty. So essentially, that's 1 hour the company has to be able to figure out where they're going to send you. Are they just going to send you to the hotel or are they going to send you to another aircraft? After that hour begins, the 3 hours of standby will then start. And then it just kind of depends where the company ends up sending you. If you arrive to an aircraft that's broken and you believed that it was going to be coming out of maintenance soon, the 1 hour provision is gone at that point because you did not send in the AOG as the crew yourself. So again, the 3 hours of cumulative standby will begin. And if they just have you sit there and babysit the airplane all day for, let's say, 12 hours, then after 7 hours of sitting at the airport, you're going to start getting a double overtime for your standby time.
All right. I think some of the biggest questions and confusion that we have regarding the contract in general is around standby duty and hot spare duty. So without getting into it too much, because I'd like everyone to stay tuned for our next episode of Labor Talks where we will get into hot spare duty, what would be the highest level difference between the two?
Yeah, so there's what I consider is 3 different types of duty here. Either, again, standby is not going to really be, standby duty itself won't be listed in waypoint, but you might occasionally see standby flight. And to be able to go reference that standby flight that will be listed in your waypoint, that's going to be referenced in FOM 2.3.9. You'll also find in that same reference where it talks about hot spare. And really the big differences is the aircraft fueled and how quickly do you need to be able to depart. So on a standby flight duty, you have to be able to take off within an hour. And most of your interior and exterior checklists and inspections have been completed. When we're talking about hot spare, you're going to have to fuel the aircraft to whatever the given amount is for your specific fleet. And the expectation is for you to be able to be wheels up within 30 minutes.
Great. And we will get that in more into that, as I said, in our next installment of this educational series. So Bennett, what would your advice be to crew members regarding standby duty and just kind of verifying that the numbers, the time looks good and is accurately reflected?
If you ever have issues with your standby time calculation, feel free to reach out to us at scheduling@njasap.com. There's also a standby email at netjets.com, and they'll be able to give you, at your request, a standby time accumulation if you need it.
And that email is stby@netjets.com. Thank you so much, Bennett, for joining us for the first installment of Duty Assignments.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today.
And thank you again for joining us on today's edition of Labor Talks. If you want to learn more about today's episode, have questions, or episode ideas, please contact podcast@njasap.com. Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Labor Talks. If you haven't already done so, please follow NJASAP on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NJASAP. Show your support for the union with comments, likes, and shares. If you enjoyed this episode, encourage your fellow NJASAP members to tune in, and please share recommendations for future podcast episodes with us at podcast@njasap.com. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, this is Labor Talks, presented by NJASAP.